Hi, I'm Ekta Markulier, Executive Director of the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center.
And I'm Jonathan Lieber, CEO of the Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado. And welcome to Business Week 2020. Thanks for joining us this week, and thank you to our presenting sponsor again this year, U.S. Bank.
So this week we've gone virtual, and we kicked it off with the License to Eat, a food truck guide. So you can eat great food throughout this entire week as we celebrate small business.
And you'll also hear from subject matter experts in the region talking to you about some of the things your business should consider in these strange and trying times. You'll learn about what you should be doing from a marketing perspective. You'll hear about how you can take care of yourself and your employees, as well as we'll take you behind the scenes on some new businesses that are opening up, like 3 East Comedy Club and our very own Olympic and Paralympic Museum.
As your leading small business organizations, the Better Business Bureau and the Pikes Peak SBDC will be bringing you the award celebration at the end of this week, where we'll be awarding the top 5 businesses in the areas of Small Business Champion of the Year, Small Business Person of the Year, Veteran-Owned Small Business of the Year, Young Entrepreneur of the Year, and Family-Owned Small Business of the Year.
We've got some great finalists this year. You're not going to want to miss it. And thank you to everybody for supporting small businesses in your Pikes Peak region.
This is Small Business Week 2020, Resilience, Recovery, and Results.
Welcome to Small Business Week 2020. I'm Jim Harris, U.S. Bank's Community Bank President and Commercial Team Leader for Colorado and Southeast Wyoming. Our friends at the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center and Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado co-host Pikes Peak Region Small Business Week, which remains the largest Small Business Week celebration in the state of Colorado and one of the largest in the nation. U.S. Bank has been the presenting sponsor for Small Business Week for nearly a decade, and we're pleased to return again this year. We know this has been a tough year for so many of our small businesses, which is why we've partnered with our fellow sponsors to make this year's event free. Small businesses are the backbone of our community, and we want you to know we're here to help. We encourage you to join us for office hours with your bankers this week to learn more about how we and other banks are partnering with the Small Business Administration to help businesses. Now we invite you to enjoy the free daily workshops, License to Eat food truck guide, and award celebration, all supporting and honoring the best of small businesses in Southern Colorado.
Welcome to 2020 Small Business Week in the Pikes Peak region. This year we're coming to you virtually, educating and celebrating small business with workshops and our Small Business Awards celebration, which is now tomorrow. We are able to bring you a week of virtual events thanks to our loyal sponsors who have stayed with us as we've had to pivot to bring you this week. Thanks to our presenting sponsor, U.S. Bank, our corporate sponsors, the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, and Kaiser Permanente, and our media sponsors for the week, the Colorado Springs Business Journal and KRDO News Channel 13. I cannot believe that today is day 4 of such a fabulous week. Jonathan, can you believe it? Oh, and real quick note, today you're going to get a ton of content. Jonathan's going to tell you a little bit about that. But if you have questions, please put it in the Facebook chat messages. And Jonathan and I, as we moderate, will be watching that. Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ekta. Today is a very important event that we are very, very excited about called Supporting Minority Businesses. I want to just give a quick shout out and a thank you to the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber, Colorado Springs Black Chamber of Commerce, and the Colorado Springs Hispanic Chamber. They are the sponsors for today. Colorado minority business owners are critical to the success of American businesses. Over 72,000 businesses in Colorado are owned by self-employed minorities, contributing a much-needed diversity to the business landscape here in Colorado. Today on this panel, we're going to discuss how you, as a consumer, can support these businesses in your local community, or as a private business or government entity that can contribute through supplier diversity initiatives. There's a whole host of ways for you to get involved and support minority-owned businesses, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today. We have an exceptional panel of experts today, including Rosie Alberto McDonough. She's the director of the Minority Business Office of Colorado. Natasha Hudson, business banking specialist at U.S. Bank. And Mr. James Proby, owner of a social enterprise in Colorado Springs called the Men's Exchange. Unfortunately, today, Marcia Romero was unable to join us today, but she's given us some of her notes, and there's some key points and takeaways that we have that we'll incorporate into the panel discussion today. The moderators are myself and my co-host and partner in crime, Ekta, and so we're excited to be here today to have this conversation with everybody.
All right, so we're going to get right into it because we have a lot of important things to talk about. But I think first, Jonathan, we should talk a little bit about, just take a couple minutes to say how the Better Business Bureau and the Pikes Peak SBDC, how do we engage in minority business support? And I just wanted to mention that, at the Pikes Peak SBDC and in collaboration with the BBB every day of our lives, because we are co-collaborators in just about everything that we do. To strengthen our business community. Supporting minority-owned businesses has been a love and a passion of ours for a long time. This event during Small Business Week is very near and dear to both of our hearts. And supporting minority-owned businesses right now is really, really important. And not that it's always important, but right now it's very important. James, I know you're going to talk a little bit towards that. Helping with minority-owned business certifications, government contract opportunities, diversity and inclusion discussions in general to help people understand what's going on in our community is really important. So I know between our offices, Jonathan, we do a lot of work in that area, and we work closely with the Minority Business Office. This is not the first time we've had Rosie speak for us, Jonathan.
Right, and I think that that's important, that this is something that we've been doing now for many, many years. I think the collaboration between BBB and SBDC, the state and other entities that are supporting minority-owned businesses, this is absolutely a space that's, I think, near and dear to both our hearts, just being people of color ourselves, but also just because when you look at just all the research that's out there, diversity is a great thing. It provides a lot of opportunity, provides obviously that much needed diversity, and with diversity becomes innovation. And we are absolutely in the middle of, working with entrepreneurs, and these entrepreneurs that we get to work with every single day are cooking up new ideas and being innovative and creative. And so this is exciting to be able to have this conversation today because I think it is more important than ever. But at the same time, I think it's just one of those things that is something that we have done for many years and will continue to do to make sure we're getting good information out there to people and make sure we're getting good education and training out to these business owners as well, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly right. And that's a really great lead-in, actually, to our first question. Rosie, this question is for you. Let's set the stage for today's conversation. During our prep for this event, you really wanted to make sure that we put the right definition out of what minority-owned business means. And, you even went into some detail about the difference between race and ethnicity. Would you mind touching on that for us?
Absolutely, Ekta. Any small business owned by a minority group, and you can talk about race and ethnicity, 51% ownership in that business can be certified as a minority, women, or veteran-owned business. And that certification is a complicated process. It could be at the federal level, it could be at the state level, or at the local level with your municipality, or it can even be with some of the other agencies that exist, like, for example, RTD, Regional Transportation Districts. So there's different certifications for the different types of businesses that we have based on the ownership of the business. But there's also certifications that appeal to the size of the business. So it's not only necessary that you have to be a minority-owned business. You can also be a small fish in a big pond, meaning you can be an emerging business enterprise, you can be a small business enterprise, certified business. So it's important that people take a little bit of time to explore what would be the best option based on their industry, based on their business, and where they operate.
And Rosie, does minority-owned business, that's women, veterans, can you say that one more time? The difference.
So minority-owned means women, means Hispanic or Latino-owned, It means Black or African American owned. It means Asian owned. It could be Native American owned. It could be also, there's a certification in the private sector for gay and lesbian owned businesses as well. So there's a variety of different options that businesses can explore. And that's exactly what the Minority Business Office does for businesses. We help them explore that road of certification, government contracting. Sometimes, a lot of people think, well, I'm Latino and I want to be certified. But sometimes the type of business that I have does not maybe have a lot of space in the government area, but it could have a lot of space in the corporate area. So there's a lot of corporations that have supplier diversity efforts that I can take advantage of and become a vendor for a corporation.
Okay, thank you so much. Jonathan?
Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate you really setting the stage for us. And definitions are important to make sure that we're kind of all working off of the same sheet music. And so thank you for going over that and really telling us how the state views it. And that kind of helps us understand where we're headed. So the next question I have is for everybody. And so let's kind of start off with the consumer side of this conversation today. I think there's a lot of people that really kind of want to know during these times, what can they do? How can our community support minority-owned businesses? How can individuals support folks in our community that own these businesses? So James or Natasha or Rosie, we're going to hit all of you with that. But James, let's start with you first of all. And so I would just kind of ask to that question, why is it important to support your local businesses?
Jonathan, thanks. It is something that I talk about almost every single time that I have a discussion about businesses and inside your community. It becomes incredibly important to support small businesses inside your community just for the sustainability of your community itself. So if you're shopping at a locally owned business or a small business, 9 out of $10 stay inside your community. If you're shopping at a large non-locally owned business or a big box store, 9 out of $10 leave your community. So if you're shopping at a store like the Men's Exchange or any of the other small businesses that throughout your community, then 9 of the dollars you spend end up staying, impacting infrastructure, roads, schools, all the other things that keep your business employment, keep your business moving forward, or keep your community moving forward. When you're spending that money at big box stores, 9 out of 10 out of those dollars leave your community and go to some other community or go to some other space. If you're shopping exclusively online with a corporation like Amazon, and this is not meant to bash any big business or Amazon, any of those spaces, it just points out that you get a chance to vote with your dollars and to impact your community by the way that you choose to shop. If you're shopping at one of those spaces online, $0 go to impact your community. Right? So when we talk about that, it becomes really, really important to think about how am I impacting the roads? How am I impacting public service? How am I impacting public safety? How am I impacting my community by simply where I choose to shop? And then additionally, when we think about adding into that and we start thinking about what happens when we supply minority businesses with work, it creates a level of sustainability and diversity throughout your community that stops you from having this one singular point of view with everything. It allows you to have diversity of thought, diversity of opinion. It allows you to have different people sitting at the table when we're talking about decision making, so that everything that comes out of this does not simply look exclusively one lens and one view. It allows a better representation of the entire community. And one of the things that I love about what Jonathan, the Better Business Bureau and Small Business Development Center do is the combination of using collaboration instead of competition, right? It's the spaces where we can figure out how can we work together and maximize our potential rather than trying to look at the world through this competitive effort. The more that we start to look at how we can collaborate, and that collaboration does mean shopping with and supporting small businesses. By that little tweak, we have an opportunity to figure out how we can put the we in front of me, how we can figure out as a community, as a society, how we all get stronger and we all get better.
James, I love that. Putting the we in front of me. I think you're absolutely right. That's important. And I think it's something that cannot be stressed enough of really making sure that you are supporting your local businesses. This is something that we all know that this is important and we got to do it. But I mean, specifically right now, make sure you go and do that. So I think in terms of the next piece of the question then, Rosie, can you talk to us a little bit about how do folks in the community find these minority-owned businesses? What's available to them so they know where to go look for these different business owners?
Absolutely. And I think James had a great point. We need to be intentional in our efforts to work with the small businesses that are surrounding us. And we are here to support them and make sure that we find them. So in our website, Jonathan, at mbocolorado.com, we have a business directory that basically lists every minority-owned business in the state in so many industries. We have over 750 businesses that are listed there. They have their information there. So I think when I say be intentional is just make sure that you go local because James has a really, really good point. The money stays in our communities. We create more employment for our communities and we support them in many, many other ways. Also, thinking about, why small businesses, right? Or why local? Well, because these businesses are pivoting at a very fast rate to provide the products and services that they give us in the way we need it right now as consumers. So they not only provide employment, they create a sustainable economy in Colorado, but they also basically, if you need the products delivered in a certain way, they have that flexibility and they have that creativity. So I think we need to be intentional and we need to invite people, to participate in commerce in different ways. And this is a way to do it. So mbocolorado.com, you can find a variety of businesses there listed there in different industries. But also, I was going to say there's another source of information that they can utilize, and it is there's a lot of federal platforms that people can use, and that's exactly why the small business development centers are so important for us, because they can help us figure out what are some of those platforms that we need to intentionally put the name of our business under. So there's FedGov's, fedbiz.gov. There's other platforms that the SBDC, your local SBDC, can help you put the name of your business down so it can be found by municipalities, by counties, things like that. The state of Colorado has what we call the VSS platform, which is the vendor self-service platform. There's no cost in putting your business name there. And there is a section there where you can specify if you're minority-owned or women-owned or veteran-owned. So that's very important as well, because sometimes there's goals for certain contracts that have to be, they have to be maybe 3% allocated to veteran-owned businesses or things like that. So that's important that we put our business in as many platforms as possible so people can find us.
No, thank you, Rosie. So happy to have you on the panel. You are a wealth of information about where to find these businesses, how they can access information, training, even capital. We're going to talk some more about that here today as well. And so kind of on that note, Natasha, let's kind of switch over to you. I recently found out that U.S. Bank has done some great things for our community. One of those specifically is that I know last year they invested $8 million from their foundation to the state of Colorado to help with some of these initiatives. And I know when COVID hit, they donated very quickly $25,000 to a market impact fund that was awarded to our region through the Pikes Peak Community Foundation to support COVID-19 relief. And so my question to you is just how is U.S. Bank assisting in bringing attention to our local minority-owned businesses? You've got a great track record here of doing some good work, but how are you specifically focusing on this?
Absolutely. I will go ahead and actually just agree with Rosie and James. I think education is key. That's kind of what I got from them, right? U.S. Bank provides information through LinkedIn and other social networks. We make sure that we support our several nonprofits by encouraging our employees to volunteer and really bring that message out. We support community projects through employees serving on boards to leverage our contributions to our local network, right? Outreach within our community is how we've always done business. I think additional ways to help is bringing the attention to the local businesses through educational forums. So whether that's going to be by partnering with our local chambers or partnering, with the Pikes Peak region, or just even hosting them ourselves, calling them US Bank Table Talks or Small Business Talks, anything like that. I think at the end of the day, US Bank is great about wanting to hear from you guys in the community and how can we do better.
Great, thank you so much. Ekta, back to you.
Yeah. So this is kind of a very simple question with a lot of answer behind it. Right now, being authentic and ethical is more important than ever. And, there's a lot of statements being put out right now, or, just like, we help this community, or we do this, we do that, being actually authentic and ethical behind your actions and showing what you're doing is really important. So the question is, can you give us examples on how to market what you're doing more appropriately? And I think what I want to do is start with you, James, again, because there's a lot going on right now. And we've talked a lot about implicit biases, or how are you marketing what you're doing? How are you targeting your customers? That sort of thing. So would you mind answering that kind of a big question? You're on mute, James.
You're absolutely right. That is a huge question, right? And we could do an hour and a half on that by itself quite easily. When we talk about implicit bias, we talk about those things that are fundamentally in our core that we don't think about, but they obviously make changes in our decisions. When we talk about it in a military sense, we talk about it as situational awareness. But as we are in North Americans, and we talk about as North Americans, and we talk about nonverbal communication, we make judgments about people in less than the first 45 seconds of meeting them, right? And what we make those judgments are based upon are the way that they're dressed, how they look, how they've done their hair, what is their name, right? All those things come into play. When we talk about doing business with somebody I've never met before, and I see someone's name is Akita, Akita, Akathea, I have no idea how to pronounce it. It's going to change. I have an idea of how I'm going to figure out if I'm going to do business with Akita or not, right? That's an implicit bias that we have to address. The reality is there's a comfort level in doing business with people that look like us, that sound like us. And the reality is they may not represent the exact same values that we have. They may not represent the best business model for us, but there's a comfort level in feeling like this is a known entity versus an unknown entity. When we get an opportunity to address that decision-making process, and we have to get away from using that small lizard brain that we have to get used to the big primate brain that we have and go, okay, look, I have to think about this. I have to make a decision based upon reality rather than based upon these other things that are out there. And let me talk about my personal experience. And when we talk about doing that, then we get a chance to start sharing in some very real, honest, and open ways. And so when we talk about how you're ethically doing business and if you're doing business in the right spots, I can tell you that on the front door at our place, the very first sign that we hung before we even hung our business name on the door is a printout that says everybody's welcome. And that's somewhat true, by the way. That's not completely true. When we say that no one is going to be rejected based upon race, color, ethnicity, gender identity, sexuality. We want to make sure that we have a safe, welcoming space for individuals because we're here to serve the community. We're here to be a meeting place. We're here to make sure we address that. The folks that we have that we point out that aren't welcome is if you're coming in with hate speech, you're not going to be welcomed here. If you're going to come in with that kind of hate, separatist, derogatory attitude, that's not something we're going to welcome here. And we stand by that every single day. We stand by that in every single space. If you can't walk in respecting human beings, this is probably the wrong place for you. I think that you're muted now. I
am muted now. Thank you. We're helping each other out today.
Yeah.
I wanted you to start with that because there implicit bias. There's a lot of words out there right now about being authentic ethical, what does that mean? And there's no one really, a lot of people don't know what the words mean, and that's okay. I think talking about just the one piece implicit bias today is really important because it's so businesses do make quick decisions on, I think I'm just going to work with these people or bring on these people to work with me, or because it's just easier. But that doesn't open up doors to bring in more customers. First of all, if you want to be a business, open up those doors. So, I mean, on the flip side now, Rosie, I'm going to go to you. Not really flip side, but regarding corporations, these large companies, how can we help them make, how can they make, or how can we help them make a conscious effort to work with minority-owned businesses? How can, supplier diversity at its best, how do we help bring up our small businesses on our local communities so that they become the primes, that they become the big ones?
Yes, and absolutely, it's an uphill battle every day, right? But there are corporations that are seeing, that these ethnic minority-owned firms basically face the same problems as the general market, as companies in the general market, right? But one of the things that supplier diversity brings to organizations is a forward thinking. We have business owners that come from a minority background that have just simply different perspectives, and they represent diverse experiences and viewpoints that bring innovation, bring flexibility into the procurement process. And yes, it is an educational process, like Natasha said. It's us kind of trying to, or making sure that people know what supplier diversity will bring to the table. And it's not going to be done in the next month or so. It's a continuous, ongoing battle. We have to do it every time. But one of the things that I also wanted to mention is, I agree, there's a lot of bias out there, but there's also a lot of businesses that are so good at what they do that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what, where you come from, if you have an accent, or if you are this or that from that minority group. It really doesn't matter. What matters is, talking about the recovery road to COVID-19, is how they have been able to change their operation to fit the times, right? So just yesterday, I was having a conversation about the back to school sale. I don't know how many millions of dollars we're going to lose in this back to school sale, because people are not buying in clothes because they are staying home, they are working from home, the kids are going to stay home, they are going to be attending school from home. So it takes, on the business owner, it takes kind of like a new perspective, saying, you know what, we help you pick the clothes so you can be comfortable at home and do this, but continue to sell, continue to make sure that you're fitting your product to the needs of your client. And that, I go back to being intentional. It's not only being intentional as a business owner, it's also being intentional as a consumer on your day-to-day. It took me to a thought about a local referral network with quality and response guidelines, for example. We see there's something like referral networks for businesses, that they go through an application process and they are accepted into that network, and then they can provide their services or their products to consumers. But there's a guideline there. There's kind of like someone that is watching how this product or service is being delivered, and if the consumer is happy and things like that. So, maybe we can locally team up. BBB would be a great part for us to be able to do that with them. You not only have the companies that are under BBB, but then, we can create a subset of businesses that are very, very intentional in the way they are providing their products and services. So going back to bias, Ekta, and I am always of this way of thinking, kind of like innovation is key. You can never give up as a business owner, can never give up. There's always a way for you to come out of the ordinary, kind of like stand out from the rest of the people that are providing the same service or the same product. So it's just a matter of rethinking how you're going to be doing it. But there are ways to do it.
So for corporations, as a follow-up, that, but again, corporations are like, we hear it all the time. Oh, we support our locally owned small businesses and minority owned businesses.
Yeah.
But on the marketing side, how can they really be authentic while they do it? What do they need to do to actually show that they care? I think that's what I'm trying to hone in on. Like, are they really doing that kind of work?
They are doing. Some of them, some are better than others, correct? Some are more open to basically work with small businesses. But creating small contracts, making sure that you have a program where you have subcontractors working with prime contractors, that will be a way. Creating mentorship programs that will allow that small business to grow into becoming a big prime provider or whatever service and product that corporation needs. I think the very, very start is just breaking your contracts into smaller bites, smaller pieces, allowing small companies to create that experience. It's like kind of like an analogy is when you start your credit as a consumer, right, here in this country, you start taking like this very small credit card and then you pay it off. You use it and you pay it off and, things like that. Kind of it's like that because you're creating experience in the way you manage your business, in the way you deliver your product and service. So for corporations, it would be great if they consider breaking up their big contracts into smaller bites.
I think that's a great like 3 examples. They're breaking it into smaller bites, creating mentorship programs. Teaming is always great, raising up the smalls. Natasha, on, Rosie mentioned credit, right? I mean, how, I always like to end it with you, Natasha, because you bring it back on the local side. Like, what are we doing locally? And I know US Bank is working really hard on that, but how can our community provide the resources our local businesses need, and how is US Bank providing that support in the kind of all these areas that we talked about?
Well, when I read that question, the theme song from Frozen, Into the Unknown, kind of came to mind first, right? I think of the way business owners were at the beginning of this pandemic, the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty, if their business was even going to be existed by the end of the year. The amount of business owners that didn't have working capital or an advisor that helped with their financial needs was really alarming. For the minority-owned businesses, we've seen that this struggle is there because they don't have a financial partner relationship in their network to draw from. Existing financial relationships are developed from that loyalty and trust. And it kind of goes back to what James said earlier. We work with who we can relate with. And I think that that's kind of one of the bigger picture of this problem. I know in my portfolio, the fear of the unknown wasn't there because I had worked with my clients to build that working capital. They have a local CPA that was able to contact a small business specialist in town. When we really look at how US Bank handled this pandemic overall, I would have told you my response would have been, we did great. Until you guys asked me to be on this panel, right? And we had that discussion and that open dialogue. I can see how we could have done just a little bit more to possibly help that minority community. I think one of the things that I have noticed over the last few months is that I have an outstanding leadership team that allows me to have a voice and to say, what could we have done to do things a little different? We reached our minorities communities just maybe a little too late, especially when it came to the payment protection program. I think with that particular program, we could have helped so many more people by giving them that education just a little bit earlier. I will say the nice thing that US Bank did is we were able to open that program out to anybody. So it didn't matter if you had an existing relationship with us or not. We were able to help. I think that one of the biggest things that I really want to address is I think that in this mantra of reality of how everything is going, we're working from the top down at US Bank. Our chairman and CEO, Andy Sinceri, recently said, we are no longer who we once were and not yet where we're going to be. I think that this says a lot on that question. It says that we can say we might not be the perfect bank on this topic yet, but we're working to get there. I had a recent conversation and some dialogue with Janet, the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce here in Colorado Springs. And I think that the initiative that they're taking, really making sure that they are giving resources and webinars to give that educational piece, I think is going to be key.
Yeah, I can't say enough about our local supporting partners. They have really worked hard to work with all of us in our businesses so that we can, I love that quote from US Bank. We're not quite where we need to be yet. And that's so, it's okay to say that. It's okay to say we're not there yet, but we're working on it. And that's real and that's authentic. And that's the right thing to do. So all three of you, thank you so much for your honesty on that question. It's a hard one, and I really appreciate that. We're going to switch gears a little bit now, right, Jonathan? We've kind of dabbled in this area already, but
we have.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I just wanted to comment too on that last response from that panel. I really think, Natasha, you're right. She did kind of bring it home nicely. It is about those relationships, and whether that's a relationship in banking, or as James was pointing out, it's that relationship that you have with your community and your customers, or as Rosie talked about, it's that relationship you have with your business partners. It's all about relationships, and we need to be aware of that. I think it's important, but also we do have to pay attention to that implicit bias and really ask ourselves some different questions now. So thank you, everybody. Just a quick reminder.
I just want to dive in. I just want to get on that same point, one last point, because I think there's a really strong point that we have hit that it really did touch me. When Natasha points in that same spot that the CEO of our organization says we're not who we were, but we're also not where we want to be. It has taken us 400 years to build the systems that are in place right now. We are not going to change those in 45 days. Acknowledging the fact that we've had some struggles and we recognize those, and we are not perfect yet, but we are growing, is such an amazing space, not just for a corporation to be, but for small businesses to be, and for human beings to be. It's a space for us to realize my eyes were closed to this issue yesterday. They're open today, and I'm not perfect yet, but I'm moving in the right direction.
No, I think you're spot on, James, and you're absolutely right. The fact that we acknowledge that we're figuring it out. You're right. We have not had this figured out. I don't think there's a specific, 100%, bulletproof plan, but we're in this together. We're moving forward, and we're taking those steps. Those first steps are the hard ones, right? And hopefully we'll gain some speed, some traction, and keep moving in the right direction. So thank you for bringing that up. I think you're absolutely right. Just a reminder for everybody that's viewing, thank you for viewing and watching this panel. We are having some great conversations here this morning. Please ask us questions. Put those questions in the Facebook live feed. Ekta and I will make sure we get those to the group, to the panel, and hopefully have some of those questions answered for you today. So as Ekta mentioned, we're going to switch gears here just a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about how minority-owned businesses themselves can take advantage of business opportunities. And we're going to learn some more about what is out there for them. And we're also going to hear that there's been some changes, as being mentioned. We've been doing the same thing for 400 years, and now there's some light. There's some things that are happening right now, and we're changing things up. And so I think the first thing we should talk about maybe, and this question is for Rosie and James, but Rosie, let's start with you. Can you talk a little bit about certifications? What are they? Why do they help? Who should or should not pursue them? There's a lot of opportunity out there that a lot of minority business owners may not even know about. So enlighten us, Rosie, and tell us a little bit more about some of these things that you work with every day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. So certifications is nothing other than just, a verification of ownership of your company, and also provides the opportunity for you to be able to take advantage of set-asides. In other words, and in simple words, is you have a contract of about, maybe $10 million, and and that government entity, government agency saying, you know what, I think we need to give 10% to a small minority-owned company to give them the opportunity to start providing those opportunities that we were talking with Ekta a few minutes ago, right? So let's say I am a restaurant, and should I even be certified? Well, based on how you operate, based on the type of product that you provide to your consumer, there might be some opportunities. So for example, a food truck, which we were supposed to have one, and I think Ekta is going to come to our homes to deliver food right after this, right, Ekta?
Yes.
But anyway, so we had a food truck coming to us, and he said, should I even be certified? And I said, okay, tell me a little bit more about your operation and things like that. And so it just so happened that this person was very close to the airport. And the airport was going to start a construction project for another area for the airport. And we said, you know what, I think this is a great opportunity for you to certify your business, make sure you have all the credentials to go into the job site and be the food provider for all the workers throughout this project. Now, that was an idea, and the idea, it was not just his truck, it was like a variety of different trucks because they rotated by days. And we can see that, happening. Ekta is nodding because she created a very similar program in other areas in Colorado Springs. We see some of that also was created here in downtown Denver, for all of the people that work in offices and things like that. So Jonathan, to go back to your comment, is it good for my business to be certified? And I cannot say in general, yes, everybody should be certified, but you should sit down with us, analyze what do you do, what are some of the agencies you can target to sell them your product or service, either at the federal, state, or local level, and then go from there. And yes, this is not a very short process. This is not an easy process because, as you all know, it involves financial information, it involves tax filing, things like that. So, but once you have kind of like a road to follow, it will be easy, and we will be right there next to you to help you with that process.
And I think that's a great point that you bring up, Rosie. I mean, it really is a matter of there are agencies and resources that exist, that are out there, that have for many, many years. This is nothing new. And so I think that that's a great point of making sure people are aware of those resources and those agencies. As you said, it might not be overnight, but this is something that people need to make sure that they are aware of and that they're taking advantage. I mean, these are things in their own local communities that they can utilize to make sure that it's helping their businesses. And so I think that's a great point of it. You're not alone. There's resources out there.
You can start small. It doesn't need to be like you start at the federal level. You can maybe start small locally with one of your counties or your municipality, and you can start exploring that process. You're absolutely right. Like, for example, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center that is next to Ekta's office, PTAC, is fantastic in helping people explore the federal area. Now, federal, you have to be a little bit more robust as a company, right? Because those are bigger contracts and things like that. But it's possible if you start thinking as government, business to government, as another revenue stream in your business. You're selling to a new segment, like an expansion in your business. You're selling to a new segment of potential clients, basically.
Absolutely. That makes great sense. And is there any other kind of innovation or funds? I know there's something we talked about a little bit the other day called Energized Colorado, which is just some opportunity. There's so many opportunities, I think. And is there anything else that you'd like to add, Rosie, that people should just consider or maybe be made aware of, that there's things that are out there that could help them?
Absolutely. Just with the pandemic, there's two funds that are coming down the pipeline, and that are two bills that the governor signed recently in the last month or so. So Energized Colorado, there is a website, energizedcolorado.com. people can go in there, and that's a $25 million fund that is a combination between grants for about $15,000 and loans for about $20,000 to small businesses that did not have access to the PPP or EIDL loans, or that just found some problems with being funded through their bank. This is a gap fund that we put together. Basically, it's called energizecolorado.com, and the application process is going to be open fairly quickly here. But if they go to that website and put their information there, that newsletter, as soon as it opens, it's going to go back to them. So make sure that you sign up in that. And then another one that's coming down the pipeline is called the Climber Fund. That's a $250 million fund, both also funded by CARES Act money. But these, for example, Natasha will be able to participate with us in this fund because these will be more commercial banks lending to businesses that are maybe above 25 employees. And the ranges are still not necessarily set, but it could be between $250,000 all the way to, I don't want to quote the number, but between, just more than $250,000 in loans, and it will be done via commercial banks. So stay tuned with AICTA, with the Small Business Development Center. That information is going to come through that network very, very soon here. And the second fund that I was telling you, Jonathan, is basically probably going to be here in October of 2020. And for that fund, we're going to have a little bit more flexibility. We have like a couple of years to disburse all of those funds. So it would be great. What we are doing as a state is we're trying to create more sustainability in the small business community, the business community we serve. And so energizecolorado.com, Climber Fund, make sure you tune in with AICTA, with you, Jonathan, and obviously with Natasha. Natasha is definitely going to be in the front row, basically there with us. But just we go back to education. We go back to connection. Just be connected with the right resources. Don't be shy about asking for help. You're not alone in this one. We are all here, either as consumers, as business owners, as corporations. This pandemic is going to affect all of us for the next 5 years. So you're not alone.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great message of you're not alone. We're all in this thing together, and ask for help. And I think that the key thing for me is there are a lot of opportunities out there right now. There have been some existing ones that have been there for many years, but I'm encouraged to hear about these future opportunities that are coming down the road from the state that will allow people access to more funds and more capital. And I think on that note, James, this is a good segue for you, just talking about just different opportunities. And specifically for you, the question is this, as a minority-owned business, as you've kind of opened your doors, how have you done that with new opportunities? And then specifically, because I love social entrepreneurship, and you as a social entrepreneur, talk a little bit about how the opportunity to help the community as a social impact business, what has that done for you, and what does that mean?
So as a social impact business or social entrepreneurship is a business that has dedicated in its DNA to help the community. So in the example of our business, we sell donated men's clothing that's been dry cleaned and laundered. You can come in, purchase anything in our shop for $40 or less. We do full sizings and fittings, so everybody gets a full service environment that's in there. But for every 9 or so people that shop with us, we get to dress one person in our community at no cost. We dress those individuals that are referred to us through our nonprofit partners, which include the Pikes Peak Workforce Center and the Springs Rescue Mission and Reach Pikes Peak and Inside Out Youth Services. And there's a whole list. We add 1 to 4 new nonprofits every quarter. The reality is that at the end of the day, no one's going to care that, that my kids are going to live off of retirement of money that we may make in any business. But they will care that we've helped them get dressed at a crucial portion in their lives, at a moment when they were in need, that we were here to provide not just a service, but also to help them out so that they could pivot, move to the next phase. We built this business based on that business model, and we are committed to making sure that we are not just investing in our community in financial senses, but in financial senses, in social senses, in the broadest sense of the impact that we possibly can. And that creates, in and of itself, that creates business for us. There are so many businesses and so many people that want to do business with social impact businesses, with businesses that they know are going to make a difference, with businesses that they know are invested in caring about their community. For us, the exponential impact is when we help an individual who is getting dressed for a new work opportunity, who has been displaced by COVID or by work or been put out of work by any of those things. They are no longer drawing on the system of unemployment. They're no longer drawing on the system of assistance. But once they find employment, and when we remove clothing as the barrier to the next phase of employment, then those individuals not only get dressed, have a better sense of self-worth and value, but then they go back to work and they start investing back in your communities through the taxes, through purchasing items, throughout helping other small businesses. It's really cyclical, and the impact becomes enormous. We want to make sure that we are talking about doing business with small businesses, that we're doing businesses with social impact businesses, because those businesses are businesses that are they're not just giving things away. They're very intentional about how they're giving things away and about the impact that they can have inside their communities. And that's one of those things that we're really proud to be a part of. We innovate on that on a daily basis. We try to figure out how we can help on a daily basis. We go through the gymnastics and hurdles of what else can we do? Where does it make sense? How can we really leverage the relationships we have in the community, and what makes sense to create more collaboration and more partnerships. We've got great partners with the ARC of the Pikes Peak region, and they have, as another business in town, did not view us as competition, viewed us as collaboration. And we tried to figure out how can we reach out to separate segments of the community in a broader sense and create this handshake and understand that we are absolutely better together than we are apart. And we can touch so many more lives in the spaces and the time frame when they need to help. They need to be helped in the most efficient and best ways.
I love it, James. I think you are spot on. I mean, it is about collaboration. It is about, I love how you talked about removing barriers, and you're paying it forward, right? I mean, that's what this is about. And I think that what we've seen here with the pandemic is that the companies that are doing things the right way, the right being, they're listening to multiple stakeholders, right?
Right.
Businesses have to make money. I absolutely get that. But I think we're seeing a shift. We're seeing this trend that we've been seeing for a couple of years now absolutely just speed up, in the sense of you got to do it's purpose and profit. You got to do both. And so the academic term for that is the stakeholder model of capitalism. And that really talks about making sure you're taking care of your employees, making sure you're taking care of your community. You want to make sure you've got that ethical supply chain, and you want to make money. And so you can do all those things. And I think you're a perfect example of that, where you are giving back to your community. You're creating hope for a lot of people in the community as well. But you're a business owner. And so you're doing all these things together in tandem. And I guess my question for you is just, how does this really kind of help that business model, especially now, of having this ability to kind of give back, still run a business, still make money, but also to give back? How is it helping you in these times?
Well, I can tell you there are times when we have to jump through the mental hurdles as everybody else, and we have to overcome some things that are in there. I can tell you when we first opened back up in the 1st of May, the first week we were open, we dressed more people at no cost than we dressed people we were selling clothing to. And that felt a little bit like a gut punch, right? From a business owner standpoint, you're like, this is not a sustainable model. I can't do this. But the reality is, once you shift and pivot your mindset to understanding that there is an abundance, we got to get away from that limited mindset into that abundance mindset. And once I personally made that shift in those weeks, it's been amazing how that's come back to us tenfold, 20-fold. We have more than enough, and there is more than enough to go around for everybody. for everyone that's involved, right? Everyone can live this abundant life. And it's really making sure that you understand that and live that and step out in those spaces. And then additionally for us, we are blessed to have some pretty solid online reviews. And the people that review their experience with us are telling other people throughout the community and throughout the world, look, if you get an opportunity to stop in, you're going to get taken care of. You're going to find incredible value. And that's not just a lesser priced product. That is a product that is equal to or better than things you're going to get elsewhere. Also incredible service, and you're going to pay less for that. And in doing so, you're also going to be impacting your community. That's what I talk about when I say value. The more individuals that we get a chance to champion that cause, and not just with us, but with all the amazing businesses out there. And it's really hard for me not to talk about Loyal, or to talk about Wild Goose Coffee, or to talk about Frela Boutique, or to talk about amazing businesses that are in our community. The more that we can champion and lift each other up, we stop this ridiculous space of competition, and we realize that with the tide, all ships rise together. We all get better. And the more that we can continue to discuss that in those spaces, we get more customers that walk through our door because of our willingness, and not just willingness, but our genuine desire to see everyone in our community profit and grow. When we have that mentality, we all get better. We all grow. We drop the idiocy of jealousy.
No, well said, James. Thank you so much. I appreciate every word, and we're blessed to have you in this community and doing what you do. So thank you for that. And I think what you described too so eloquently is there's a new book that came out from Simon Sinek that talks about having an infinite mindset. And you talked about that, of just having a mindset of abundance. It's very, very similar. And you're right. If we have that infinite mindset, if we see forward to the future, we're going to create more wealth, more abundance, more opportunity for everybody. So thank you so much for that. That's fantastic. I appreciate what you're doing in our community. Just really quickly, one of the comments from Marcia, the panelist that couldn't be here today, wanted to educate everybody listening today on community development financial institutions, or CDFIs. This is something that is really kind of helpful, I think, for some different business owners that are out there that may need access to some capital. And as business owners, we all need access to capital, right? But one of the things that US Bank provided lending to was an organization called DreamSpring, formerly Accion. You may know them better by that name. They just renamed. But this is a regional program that does a lot of business in Southern Colorado. And their clients are primarily low and moderate income business owners and business owners of color. And because of some of the involvement of US Bank and other lenders giving capital to this, they were able to create several loans in 2019 of over $500,000, and that's gone up for 2020. So just another resource that's out there, these community development financial institutions. There are numerous ways, as you've kind of heard from the panel today, to get involved, to access capital, to figure out some of the things that are available to you, as a business owner. So some good stuff out there. And thank you, Rosie and James. Ekta, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, James, the words that you said were exactly what needed to be said. I can't move on to the next question without commenting on that. I could see how it drained you because you're so passionate about it. I could feel like you released that, and it's so important we do that more often, because being bigger, being collaborative, and not being competitive is incredibly important. That's why Jonathan and we can call each other in seconds and say, hey, BBB, can you partner with SBDC to reach our minority-owned business community, to do this, to do that? And he's like, absolutely. We both offer workshops, we both offer support, but we know where each other's good at, we know where our connections are and our strengths are, and so we collaborate every single day. And that's at least what we do on the supporting minority-owned business side. And I think if everyone just acted like that and collaborated, it would just move us forward tremendously. It's a long haul, but it would move us forward. So thank you for those honest words and motivating words, to make us all do better as we leave, even when we leave this workshop. So Natasha, We recently discovered that U.S. Bank made a very large commitment of $115 million, I believe, to Black, Indigenous, and people of color in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Minority-owned businesses' access to capital can be quite different than other businesses, and we know that there's been, there's been a lot of discussion on what access to capital looks like for minority-owned businesses. Could you talk about the barriers you've seen for minority-owned businesses and their access to capital and some solutions to decrease those lack of spaces? Another big question that I've sent your way.
So I'm actually going to read a recent review. A review of the national and regional studies over several decades indicates that limited financial, human, and social capital, as well as racial discrimination, are primarily responsible for disparities in minority business performance. Inadequate access to financial capital continues to be a particularly important constraint, limiting the growth of minority-owned businesses. The latest nationally representative data on the financing of minority firms indicates large disparities in access to financial capital. Minority-owned businesses are found to pay higher interest rates on loans. They are also more likely to be denied credit or less likely to apply for loans because they fear their applications will be denied. Further, minority-owned firms are found to have less than half the average amount of recent equity investments and loans than non-minority firms, even among firms with 500,000 or more in annual gross receipts. Also, invest substantially less capital at startup in the first few years of existence than non-minority firms. This report was developed under a contract with the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency and contains information and analysis that was reviewed and edited by officials of the Minority Business Development Agency. So I felt like this was powerful, right? This is exactly what you're asking. So it kind of reminds me of the very first weeks on the job. I had a Black owner who made an appointment with me. For this example, this client's name I'm going to use is Marcus. Marcus was referred to me by a past client and was told that I was the magic worker. His first words out of his mouth were, "I can't get a loan because I'm Black. So not even sure why we're even going to try." So of course, I'm thrown off by this statement. I'm scrambling to think, how am I going to handle this conversation? And after a moment, I decided the truth was the best way. The truth is that financial institutions, they have a lot of policies and guidelines that they have to follow in order to lend, but race is not one of them. It was over a 2-hour conversation along with a plan at the end of that conversation that ended 11 months later with this client having working capital. He was able to expand his business and he is now on his way to that financial health that we were talking about. The reason I bring this example up is because there is a stigma that needs to be brought to light on how banks work and operate. I want to challenge financial institutions out there to help educate their clients on the importance of filing taxes correctly, understanding what it truly means to have cash flow and what that importance is to their business, especially if they're wanting to expand at a later date. This also brings me to my next client that I just had a dialogue with not even 3 days ago. She's a local doctor here in town and she is a minority-owned business. We had dialogue because she says that she feels that when she works with me, that there is no issues. She knows that she's going to be treated with the utmost respect and treated just the same as anybody else. I think for us as banks, business bankers, we have to be able to be honest with our clients and truly have that dialogue with them and have them know that they can trust us again and that we can educate them and that we can help with that financial plan. So then that way that does close that gap.
Rosie James, I know when we were talking about this question, you had a couple of comments also on minority businesses accessing capital as well and the importance of education. Do you want to add any thoughts to this question?
Can I just add really quickly, this is one of the questions we received on Facebook, just talking about lender bias.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, we actually got a couple of questions. We have a ton of questions, by the way, that we're going to get to. They're coming in strong, but this is definitely a question. We want to talk a little bit more about this.
Ika, I'd like to make a comment, and I really appreciate U.S. Bank's efforts, because they are certainly supporting a lot of the funds that I talked to you before. And but also, one of the things that I have, as a minority, as a prior entrepreneur and current entrepreneur with some of my other businesses, I have a comment that I think would come really appropriate here. And that is, never leave any information on the table. So the U.S. Bank can be there, they can be your bank, you can have your depository relationship with them, right? You need a loan, you need a line of credit to continue to operate. Approach anybody that can help you, get prepared for that. And see it as a marathon that you want to run. You want to get prepared, you want to get, your training into place. So how do you get your training? Call Ekta. Ask her to give you some no-cost consulting, to prepare all of your financial information, to prepare your business plan, to make sure you think about what happens, get your plan A, plan B, plan C in place. Make sure you ask for help. Jonathan, you said it very eloquently. We need to understand that as business owners, we're not going to be the experts in every field that we need to have as business, right? We may be fantastic marketers, but we don't really like the numbers piece. Well, then we need help on that numbers piece, and we need to know where to find it. So that's my thought. Always be prepared. Just like you dress up for your first appointment with your client, and you want to make a good impression. The same thing happens with a bank. The same thing happens with a micro lender. You want to have your best impression there in front of them when they first meet you. So I think it's important that we go back to education. We go back to using the resources that are available. This is a great country. There's a lot of countries where we don't have this type of support, and I can tell you about that. But so let's take advantage of these, and for free, at no cost to you. This is just incredible. So get prepared, get your ducks in a row, and make yourself you dress up for your first appointment.
James, do you have any commentary? I know you've had your own. You had some good stories of your own at one point.
I've always got stories of things that happen to me, without a doubt, right? The reality is that as you grow up being someone of a different color, different ethnicity, different background in the United States of America, you feel the sting of being treated differently. And whether it ends up being a reality or not, when you walk into a bank, you have already felt the sting that society has stung you with, that you are dealing with systems that are not leveraged in your advantage. And so when you feel that way, you take that perception into every single one of those lending opportunities. One of the things Chris Rock talks about is, people want to suggest that baseball became equal when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, which is the most asinine thing in the world. When we have one person in an all-white league, it doesn't make things equal. Because Barack Obama was elected president, it doesn't suggest that we have an equality that's happened in there. When we have 44 other non-white presidents, then we'll start talking about where we've got equality in those spaces, right? The reality is Jackie Robinson just simply had to be the best. He had to be better than everyone else. He wasn't permitted to fail. He wasn't provided the space where he could be less than. And the same can be said true of the vast majority of small business owners when we're talking about stepping in front of lenders, and that is big bank corporate lenders, as well as angel fund investors, as well as capital that is accessed from individuals. You are not permitted to be okay You're not permitted to have a decent plan. You have to be perfect. You have to present yourself in the best possible light. You have to present yourself in a space where there is no chance for failure before you're going to get funded for any of these ideas. And it becomes frustrating from the business owner's perspective when you see your colleagues who have half-baked plans and less experience in the field and less experience in what they're doing get funded for these things. It feels like the rules are set against you. It feels like you're ice skating uphill. And in reality, in a lot of cases, you are. The end point of that is you cannot let that stop you. We have gotten to this place by being absurdly resilient, by being resourceful in a way that you can't begin to imagine. I didn't get funding from my business from an angel investor. We got funding through a GoFundMe. And through me imploring everybody in my social network, give me $10, give me $20. And then through the grace of God, we were allowed to stretch that money to where we were able to open, right? That's an incredible different story, but it also means that we were able to keep moving forward. We were not able to access the PPE and PPL funds. We applied, we didn't get approved for that. I could take that on and suggest that, it happened because I'm a minority business and because I'm a Black person. The reality is we were blessed enough to have enough of a stable financial business to withstand being closed for 8 weeks. Now, could we do that for another 8 weeks? It's a little doubtful, but we have a community that believes in what we do, and they have supported us from day one, and they've continued to support us through everything that we do. It is making sure that we give the one thing that we can control, and that is my best effort today. And as we're continuing to do that, I think you get access to more money, you get access to more rooms, more conversations, more tables, by being the best you can possibly be.
Thank you for that, James. I think that is, once again, well said, eloquently said. Thank you for that. One of the other questions that we had that came from the audience that's asking is, how can minority-owned businesses work together more collaboratively? So just throwing that out to the group. Any ideas or suggestions?
Well, we talk about that referral network, right? You can go to the mbocolorado.com directory and you can find new vendors for your business, that you would like to start working with. And it would also be a way for you to do some price point checking, things like that. I think just James talk about these, you talk about these, be intentional and find those businesses within your resource network that you can start working with. If you're buying your lunch from Panera, go to a local business, and instead of buying that from them, just buy it from the business three blocks down the road from you.
Right.
Things like that. Your masks. Just don't go to a nationwide company. There's a lot of companies right now doing masks, providing PPE. Go local, find them locally. You have to do some remodeling in your business because you got to do plexiglass and whatever. Just go to a local provider for that can help you with that. So I just, being intentional, obviously it's very, very important. And then I'm not sure who mentioned this, if Natasha or James, but look for partnerships too. There might be some contracts that are way too big for you to go out there. James could partner with maybe their local Goodwill or, somebody else that can help, or United Way, or, things like that. Go try to look for partners in any of your projects that you have in the next 6 months. That's another thing. Just keep an eye, raise your head, keep your chin up, and look at what's in the horizon for you. Not just look at 3 to 4 months down the road. Look at 6, 9, 12 months down the road, and how can you start, putting together those deals with local people.
Absolutely. So I would love to jump in and piggyback on that because you brought out a great space with us, Rosie. We partnered not with Goodwill, but with the ARC of the Pikes Peak region because they do the same stuff, but they were willing to partner with us and they were willing to create that kind of collaboration. So you're 100% correct in that. And then additionally, as we're talking about supporting small businesses and minority businesses, this is a joint statement here. I'm going to say something that's really unpopular, but accurate, right? You got to quit asking your small businesses and your minority businesses for a hookup. Pay the full price. Help support those businesses. Help give them the necessities that they need to be competitive in the market. Obviously, everybody's going to try to give you the most competitive rate that they can and take care of you the best places that they can. But you got to stop asking everybody to sacrifice on your behalf when we can actually take care of one another just by doing the exact same businesses, right? You're not asking Jeff Bezos to give you a hookup, even though he just made $13 billion. Continue to help those individuals that are on your block, on your corner, around the street from you. Help them out and go with the spaces where you can take care of them and pay the going fare.
I think that was the best statement. I don't know how many times, we're asking our local breweries for free beer to donate to some event. I'll trade you logos. That doesn't work. Pay the price. And I'll tell you what, they'll take better care of you than any other big corporate company because they normally give you their at price cost to support their event. They're still making the money. They're covering their costs. And they're getting the marketing. There is definitely a collaboration there. Thank you so much for saying that out loud. And it is not, and it is welcomed in the realms of SBDC and BBB. We are okay with that statement by far, by far. Sorry, Jonathan, I hijacked your question.
No, I think that was a great answer to that one. Unless Natasha had anything else, we've got several more we want to ask this group. We got some good ones. Natasha,
yeah, let's go to the next question. I think they handled that well.
All right. So the next question is this one's about capital. And so obviously, as we all know, capital is key. Some of you have brought it up. James just mentioned it. And Natasha, you just gave some statistics on capital. And when you're looking at minority-owned businesses, they don't have access to as much. And so the question that we got is, knowing that capital is key and minority businesses have potentially some issues in accessing capital, how do they survive if there's potentially another shutdown coming or just in general?
So I'll take this one. I think that this goes back to what Rosie said at the very beginning. She's got, if you meet with her first, she's going to be able to put you in the right contacts with who is going to be able to help you within the market. I think from a U.S. Bank standpoint, this is you sitting down with your small business specialist and making sure that you are doing things the right way. This is you sitting down with your CPA, making sure that they are treating your business the best way that's best for you in the long run.
So it's about that relationship. And if you don't have that relationship, then you need to go get one like today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like yesterday.
Okay, sorry. Yes, yesterday. But I think it does go back to what Rosie was talking about as well, is that access your resources, access that network. James talked about accessing his. Ask for help. Get involved. Get educated. There are resources that are out there, and times are tough for everybody. But there is some opportunity that Rosie talked about earlier that's coming down the pike that U.S. Bank's given before. They're going to continue to give. But if people don't know about it, or if they don't ask the question or ask for help, they're going to miss out on that opportunity. Or just show up and Ekta, I think that's the other thing too. Just talk to Ekta. Ekta will get you plugged in. And seriously, if you need help, there are lots and lots of things that are out there that are available to people. It can be absolutely overwhelming and confusing. Start with the SBDC. Come ask me at BBB. I'll be happy to help too. But Ekta, this is what she literally does in her job every single day, is navigate people to resources. There are people in this community that want to help you. And this is what we do. And so there's a lot of good stuff out there. But if you don't know about it, if you don't ask the question, you're not going to be able to access it or find it.
Yeah, that, the SBDC network, and, not to self-promote, but it is true. We are nationwide, we're statewide, we're locally connected, statewide connected, federally connected. I'm on national committees on different topics: cybersecurity, veteran-owned small business, minority-owned small business. Rosie and I serve on a couple of those together. I mean, we are literally connected to the tourism office, the Colorado creative industries, and then locally, our collaborations with the BBB #1, chamber collaborations, minority-owned business chamber. The one thing between our offices are we don't hold you hostage. It's something I say in our one-on-one class. We are not here to hold you hostage. We're here to connect you with the resources that can help you move forward. And especially during a pandemic, our offices that are represented here, all of us, we've dealt with many, many disasters. So this is our 4th in our community alone, right? And so, ask the questions. Don't stay in the dark. Education is key. Just ask, and we will provide you with the information you need, whether it's us or not. The collaboration, right, James? Like, we're okay if it's not us. I'm okay with saying Jonathan is the lead on social impact information, like he is nationally recognized. Why wouldn't I send you to someone who knows what they're talking about? So definitely stay connected. SBDC, that's what we're here for, resource and education. That's all we do. That's our bread and butter. So thank you for that shout out, Jonathan. And we're proud to be able to provide that kind of support.
And then develop relationships prior to needing them. So get involved, like Natasha points out, get involved with your banker yesterday. Find a bank that you like, that you connect with, and get involved with your bank and develop relationships with those individuals prior to having the need. People are going to feel much better connected to you when you're showing up out of a space of authenticity. And I'm trying to build legitimate, honest connections and relationships. And then when the need comes, it becomes a lot easier to be able to process those things and to connect with people in a slightly different way.
You're absolutely right. The development of a relationship with the banker and your financials is so important. There's a business in Manitou she's a women-owned business. She worked on her business plan, her financial plan for years with us. Like, it's this constant. She's taking every class you could imagine. and received every grant to take the classes as well. So she received that access, right? She was able to go to the table, to the bank she had a relationship with that she never had before. She talked with our organizations and was able to get the PPP loan that she needed, the economic injury disaster loan, applied for a local grant fund that became Pikes Peak Enterprise Zone grant fund that became available, was able to get all of it because she was ready. And she learned back from Waldo Canyon Fire that's something she lacked and that she needed now. So I couldn't stress that enough. We've seen the success of having that relationship, and very, very, very important. Jonathan, we have a ton of other questions here. Mind if I ask another kind of a different one?
Go for it.
And this is questions, frequently asked questions on certifications, Rosie, but we get them all the time and they're important. One, how long does business need to be in business or operation to qualify for certifications? Is there kind of a level? And then are those how long do they expire? Do you have to renew those certifications at some point?
Yes, and the answer is yes. Most certifications need to be renewed. Although when you're renewing your certification, the process is a lot more simple. You may have to send an updated profit and loss or balance sheet, things like that. It's much more simple. To answer your question about how long do you need to be in business to be a certified company, in some cases, 0, right? In some other cases, it's 6 months with the city and county of Denver, for example. In some cases, it's 6 months. In some other cases, is 2 years. With the federal government, some certifications, they want you to be in business for about 2 years. And it talks to, what I was telling Jonathan about how complicated is it to be, doing business with a municipality or a county, as opposed to with the state, as opposed to with the federal agency. So, there's different levels there. There are also certifications that do not require that you have been in business, more than just being registered with the Colorado Secretary of State. Now, it is important to mention within that process of certification, if the person had some prior experience under that industry, under that, that type of work that they are performing. So it's important. Your resume is important. Your prior experience is important. And we will help you kind of like determine what are some of the points that you can present in order to shed more light into who you are and why did you decided to hang your shingle. It's like you have to really be knowledgeable about what you're going to be doing.
Rosie, kind of a follow-up question to that. There's a lot of organizations in the Pikes Peak region, Pikes Peak Workforce Center, SBDC, BBB. We work with justice-involved citizens, those that have been formerly incarcerated. Justice-involved citizens is the correct terminology to use. Can they access certifications to those with past histories? Can they get certified as well?
Definitely. That there's no requirement under that or limitation under that, so they can get certified. This is not like a security, it's not a security badge, basically. It's just a certification, and it is about the business, basically.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan, I know you're tracking some questions.
Yeah, next question. This is a really good question. I like this one. And this is for everybody, but Rosie, you might have a great answer for this one. The question is this, is right now, as you kind of look at the landscape, what are the most underutilized resources? We just talked about a whole bunch of resources. What are the resources that are going unused and untapped?
That's a good one. I want to say through this pandemic, a lot of the resource organizations have been working on putting their content online, via webinars, making sure they are very, very flexible in the delivery of content. So one of the underutilized resources that we have been consulting. So consulting can be now, I apologize, my dog is going to start barking here. It's virtual. So that's one of the areas where I see people are not taking enough advantage of what's offered out there, and it will be extremely beneficial.
Natasha, what are you seeing in the lending space? Are people taking advantage of some of those grants and the other opportunities some of them are new, but some of them have been around for a while?
I think for us, we definitely recognized how many people weren't taking advantage of the PPP at first, and now we're at the deadline, and now they're wanting to take it because they were able to find out about it. And I was just shocked on how many people let that one go. A lot of the SBA programs that are out there, they're not taking advantage of. A lot of small businesses are using their savings accounts instead, and I just think that that's just, in my opinion, not U.S. Bank's opinion, but my opinion, I just think that that's just terrible. Don't take away from your savings. You've saved for that. There's definitely programs out there through the SBA that take advantage of.
Yeah, and just to add, one of those programs is like the Dream Spring Axiom services that you've supported that U.S. Bank has supported. Those are lenders that help people get into traditional lending, right? So there's alternative ways to get support, and that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah,
but yes,
I agree. There's a lot out there that could be taken advantage of.
And there's one more that I would add into that mix. The Colorado Institute for Social Impact, CI for SI. When you're talking about how do I get certified, how do I understand how to start a social impact business, how do I connect with other social impact businesses, social entrepreneurship, it is an amazing organization that you get a chance to spend some time with, where it is completely underutilized. People talk to me literally every week about, how did you come up with this idea and how do you do this? And we'd like to do a social impact business. They have incredible classes that you can take in person and online. There are a number of different videos you can get from them. It is one of the most underutilized resources that you can get your hands on when you're talking about having a social impact or social entrepreneurial business. They are the go-tos in the industry, locally and nationwide. The fact that they happen to be here in the state of Colorado is amazing, but it is the Colorado Institute for Social Impact that is by far the industry's leader on understanding how you can become a social enterprise or social impact business.
Thank you, James. I appreciate that tremendously. There's, as we mentioned earlier, there's a shift going on right now in capitalism from the shareholder model to the stakeholder model, and social impact businesses perfectly embody the stakeholder model of capitalism, where it is about the larger community, your employees, ethical supply chains, and making money. So thank you for that.
And at the end of the day, Jonathan, our consumer buying behavior, right? I love how you talk about that. At the end of the day, our socially impactful businesses, those that are community oriented, are the ones that are going to be doing better, because at this point, buying, your every dollar counts, and it has for a long time, but the buying behavior itself has changed. So it's the model to start. If you haven't looked at it yet, you better look at it.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of new research that's come out during the pandemic and because of Black Lives Matter that has talked about this specifically, that Americans want something different from capitalism. They don't want to switch to something else. They just believe that capitalism 2.0 is on the way. And so how can we make this more equal? How can we make this more accessible? How can we make this so that there is more impact to our local communities and to the workers that are working in these businesses? And so it's already here, it's already happening, but definitely folks get educated on that for sure. Mm-hmm. One of the other questions as we kind of start to wrap down the questions that we got online is somebody asked the question about how do I find local businesses? They referenced a website on the state. They know that there are some other resources, Rosa, that you mentioned, but if they just wanted to look up here in Colorado Springs, it's something that's relatively easy to kind of access. Is there an app? Is there another website? How can folks just figure out what they want to, who they want to shop from here in Colorado Springs? How do they do that?
Is that question for me?
Really, yes, definitely for you, Rosie, but for Natasha and James, I mean, there's a secret way you access information. I'd love to hear about it as well. But yes, Rosie, I mean, if you could kick it off, that would be great.
Well, there's ways. The ways I have would be the MBOcolorado.com business directory. That's one way to do it. It is searchable, Jonathan, by zip code, and it is searchable by keyword. So that's a really good way to do it, right? There is also another directory, and this is basically statewide. It's called the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Directory, and it is public information. It could be accessed by anyone, and it is under the City and County of Denver. If you Google how to do business with the City and County of Denver, that will take you to that directory, and the whole database for the 2,000 plus businesses is there. Now I'm a nerd, and I know how to manipulate data in Excel. So what I do is I download that spreadsheet, and then I sort it by region or by city, and then I can see all the businesses locally that I could possibly promote some of the trainings that we do and things like that. But in a way, for example, James could be saying, what are some of, I'm looking for a plumber, or I'm looking for a roofer, he can sort it by Colorado Springs, or he can sort it by the city that he lives in or he operates in. And then he can see a whole bunch of different businesses in different areas that can help him with his project. So that's another way I could do it. And I can show Eita how to do it, because we can put it out as a resource for people follow up to this session. And it's a good way. So you have to be a little bit of a nerd like me to be able to manipulate Excel. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. I'll nerd out on it with you, Rosie. I just want to mention there are some initiatives happening locally, like My Black Colorado. They've put together an amazing list of Black-owned businesses in Colorado. A lot of support locally because they're based locally, Ginny and Brandon Bournes, but they've just done an amazing job of putting an amazing list together, a vendor list too for an online marketplace. Some other opportunities too are working with your local library. They have an amazing list of databases. Our favorite librarian is retiring tomorrow. I'm not sure if everyone knows that, but she is. Yes, she is. I made the announcement for her. But they have El Pomar Library, Tammy Sales, and some other people at the Pikes Peak Library District have amazing resources where you can search by what type of business is owned by who, right? There's some great resources there. And then our commitment locally is, and we've made this statement, is we're going to make sure that we on that project, that we work on getting a minority list of businesses locally, definitely in collaboration with trusted businesses through the BBB, that we want to promote and have it readily available when someone's like, I want to work with a minority-owned business that is veteran-owned, that is whatever owned, or just I would rather in general, here's everything, because you don't want to just do business with people that you think you want to do business with, right, James? So have this full list, and that is a commitment we have made to make sure that we're working on that. But there are some really cool databases you can access right now for free, such as MBO database, to find those types of minority-owned businesses on the local level.
So it sounds like you can give some information and resource to people. There are folks online that are saying, yes, please. I would love to have that.
Yes,
list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But a great place to start, Pikes Peak Library or your local library. They have amazing databases you get for free. Number 2, Secretary of State. Number 3, Minority Business Office. A lot of good information readily available.
No, fantastic. And I think another great comment that just came through as well, as we've been talking about what resources are out there, is even this is a resource. We're streaming live today, and this is free. And we are not the only people doing this. There are a lot of organizations that are giving away their content for free. Usually you have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And the comment was, people need to take advantage of that. And I agree, they totally need to take advantage of that. There are conferences I wanted to go through to for years, but they were really expensive, or I didn't have the time, and I was able to sit in the comfort of my own home and watch, world-renowned speakers, and it didn't cost me a nickel. So take advantage of that. That is hopefully, I think, one of the silver linings of this interesting situation that we are in, is that there's a lot of content that is doing that people are offering right now, and take advantage of that. It's free. It's online. You can access it in your home. I know probably some of you have taken advantage of that as well. So as we start to wrap the panel up, we got one more question for everybody. We've had a lot of really, really good content today, but I think if we can, let's start to talk about what your final thoughts are and what are some takeaways that you have. And not necessarily in any particular order today, but anybody that wants to volunteer to go first. Final things for people to consider. What are those takeaways you want to leave people with today?
I'll dive in. If you're going to walk from this with anything, it is, in my opinion, please shop local. Please make an effort to make and support to make your local businesses sustainable and to support them. As we have had challenges with eating out, but we've been ordering in, it makes a huge difference when you're ordering in from local businesses versus ordering in from large chains. There's a gigantic difference. Buying coffee at a local coffee shop is a huge difference. It's a small thing for you. It's a gigantic thing for your community. So when you have an opportunity to purchase and support in actions and vote with your dollar, you have a huge impact on your local community, not just the individual small businesses, but in infrastructure, in roads, in education, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Making that conscious shift is a huge difference. And then additionally, when we think about how can we help to create a competitive, or a collaborative is a better word, environment for small businesses to be able to be collaborative inside. It's making sure that you are being a patron of minority businesses, small businesses, and making sure that you're making those businesses sustainable. And then thirdly, if we have the opportunity to address the implicit bias that we have, that is not being defensive and saying, oh no, I haven't been to a cross burning, so I'm not racist. It's the opportunity to go, hey, look, I've got some things that are inherent in me that I've learned over the last 20, 40, 60 years I've been on this planet. Maybe I need to revisit some of those things and start trying to have slightly different experiences with people who don't look like, sound like, have different names than I do, because there is some real amazing things in there. If you think people that don't look like you have amazing food, you should think about the other experiences they can bring to your table.
Gosh, James, I couldn't have said it better way. There's one more thing that I think we have not talked about, and I think it's really important, is take care of yourself. Make sure that you're taking a look at your mind, and you're taking a look at how you're feeling through all of these, because a lot of us, our life has changed. You know, I can tell you my days as a worker are between 10 and 12 hours a day. And I wasn't pushing myself to go for walks, to have my own time, to, you know, because I was in this emergency state of, I need to help people, I need to do this, I need to do that. If you fall on your face, there's nobody I'm going to be helping. So you need to make sure that you schedule your time with your family, that you schedule your time with your work, and that you are making sure you're active and that you're not sitting on your chair for 12 hours a day. I'm saying this out of my own experience. And the other thing is, make sure you allow yourself to say, hey, this is really affecting my mood. This is really affecting how I'm feeling. So let me go and look for some help. This is something we never talk about during this session, but I think it's really, really important, because that's going to, you know, keep us healthy and keep us, you know, being nice to the people we love and that we care for. So that was my last thought.
I think for myself and US Bank, we want to challenge you guys to get out there and find your financial partners, find your financial team that's going to work for you, that's going to be able to help with your business, that's going to be able to get you to the next levels, and that's going to help it to where you can sleep at night when any pandemic comes up going forward. I think that that's the biggest thing that I want to make sure anybody takes away from what we spoke about today.
Well, thank you, everybody. This has been just a great discussion. I think you guys have brought up some really great points, and have given people some insight into some of the opportunities and some of the, hopefully, you know, even capital resources that are out there. But there's a lot, and I think that this is something that's important for people to know and to understand, is that there are resources out there for you. But if you are sitting at home alone, as you just mentioned, then, you know, they're not going to come to you probably. So you need to ask some good questions, get connected, talk to your network, visit SBDC, find a good banker, make sure you're reaching out to the state, you know, visit James' shop and others in this community that are local. There's a lot of things all of us can do. And at the end of the day, I think it really kind of is a good reminder of, you know, you vote with your wallet, right? Wherever you buy things and whoever you buy from, you are telling that person that you believe in them, or if you don't buy from them, that you don't. And so I think that as consumers, and as a conscious consumer, we all need to be aware of what goes into that, and who we shop with and who we shop for and what we stand for, quite honestly. So appreciate the conversation today once again. Thank you so much. Ekta, any other parting thoughts from you before we start to wrap this up?
Yeah, always have a parting thought, Jonathan. I just want to remind our small businesses in our disadvantaged areas, or those that just don't think that they can access capital or access resources. You know, at this point, the resources that our community can provide reach the rural areas of our counties. I don't want to leave our rural businesses out, because we have focused from the state level on rural development and support, and so as our local cities, because we think of ourselves as a region. So don't be scared to reach out, to create a relationship, or just to ask the question. Like if you're like, I'm not going to qualify for anything, we'll ask first. Let's get you to where you can. Let's support you, and we will hold your hand. That's why we're here. We literally will hold your hand, hear your story, and help you with everything that you need. So don't fear the question. Sometimes it's not about embarrassment, you guys. It's not about that. To get over that. It's not about that. We all have our struggles, and asking the question helps. So if there's a takeaway I'm going to give to someone is ask, and just and get the support you need, because it is out there. It is out there. So we'll come to you, but we need you to ask. Otherwise, we don't know you exist, right? So just know that we're here to support.
Great, thank you, Ekta. And thank you to our panelists today. All of you were great. And thank you to our audience today. You had some great questions. Thank you so much for watching. You do not want to miss out on our final day of Small Business Week, which is happening this Friday. That's tomorrow. We present awards to phenomenal businesses in our region, and not just phenomenal, but the top businesses in 5 categories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're so excited about tomorrow. Tomorrow's the awards banquet, the culmination of a week of events, culmination of hard work throughout the year. So we're going to be awarding in the categories of veteran-owned small business, young entrepreneur, family-owned small business. I have to count on my hands, otherwise I'll forget someone. Small business champion and small business person. You know, it takes hard work to win these awards. They're actually we're very strict on the categories. We follow the national SBA guidelines for these. We look at financials. We look at community impact, ability to overcome obstacles, all of that. So if you are not signed up to attend, please sign up. This is the best way to support your local businesses and celebrate with us. It's Steve Weed Media, who's been producing this event and all events, has done an exceptional job of helping us tell stories of our finalists and how they've been resilient and pivoting during the pandemic. So you definitely want to watch those videos. Register at you can register right here on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook, Small Business Week Pikes Peak Region. Click on the link, register. You can catch the live feed on our Facebook page and pikespeaksbdc.org. There's a Small Business Week link right on the homepage. So we just want to say thank you for joining us today, right, Jonathan? Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, James. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you so much for being with us. And tomorrow is going to be an amazing day of celebration from 3 to 5 o'clock. Join us live, and thank you for being with us, and have a wonderful day.